is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. Let all these words, let our meditations, let our actions be the light today. Amen. You remember in this fall the picture of the little boy whose body washed up on the shores of a Greek island. Remember that? It galvanized the world. The next morning I got a call from Carolyn, who said, I can't do this. I cannot not do something. We got chatting. And so Carolyn's going to speak in a couple of minutes. Myrna referred to it. The Gospel of Luke is the social justice gospel. It's the gospel that the United Church of Canada certainly loves because social justice is so deeply embedded in our tradition. It doesn't play very well, actually, because when we actually think about the economy of every valley being lifted up and every mountain being made low and the roadways being made smooth and the crooked paths made straight, if we think about that in terms of economics, it actually lands on us. It actually lands on us. And it's a big kind of adjustment for us to even wrap our heads around. So I invite you to kind of even turn your posture towards that, to wonder about what does every valley being lifted up and every mountain being made low, look at that. This is the social justice gospel of Luke. One of the things that I also know that makes every valley low and every mountain brought down is Carolyn Cole's gift of music. Her music creates a unity in the way she plays from a place that we can only access when she plays. It's that piece of her she can only give when she plays. It is a blessing upon us that you play for us. And so that's another way that the great leveler happens. And Carolyn called me and said, I can't not do anything. This is the story.
Thank you. So, yes, I today was approached by somebody in the congregation who said, so you're really busy, you have a lot going on. And I said, yes, but today I'm going to give some of my busyness to you. I'm offloading, I'm delegating. That's what people say all the time, delegate, delegate. So, a little background. When I phoned Blair and asked him what we could do, he had said he'd received a call from somebody expressing a similar concern from another church. Is that correct? And so, to make quite an involved story a little bit shorter, a meeting was finally organized to gather those of us who'd expressed an interest in being very active about this problem. And we became what we're called right now representatives or delegates or whatever. Kelly Jenner, who's here, is one. Ray Boucher is one, right here. And we have a few others, I think. Basically, we're representing 7. Oh, I think Judith also possibly, yes? Judith?
Not the delegate.
Not, okay.
Do it another way.
Yeah, all right. We are one of 7 churches in what is called the North Shore United Churches Refugee Sponsorship Alliance. And it's actually the first time that's ever happened that all the United Churches on the North Shore have gotten together, all their energies to do something quite important in our view. So, based on this, we have created, thanks to somebody who's very good at leading in administration, many overviews of what needs to be done. There are many of you actually who did support a refugee, so a refugee family or an individual, so you know how the process works. It is changing over the weeks, over the days, as you've been probably reading. The way it stands right now, our well, let me back up. When we brought this idea of sponsoring a family to our individual churches, we presented it to the board, and all the boards approved, including our board. So I invite you to join in this new journey to sponsor a refugee family from Syria. It takes a little bit of wrapping our minds around. We all have our concerns about issues here in our homes and areas within Vancouver. But this seems so, we just can't not do anything. Over time, and with consulting various refugee resettlement agencies, particularly one called Mosaic, which is the agency that we're connected with, and they're in downtown Vancouver, they recommended budget of what it would cost to sponsor a family for a year, which is generally the obligation. This is monetary obligation, family obligation, connecting with them, preparing their space, making sure that they make their connections, that they have interpreters in place. It's quite extensive. The churches decided the budget would need to be increased because Mosaic's idea of what each individual should be allowed per month was not enough. So we've increased it. Each church is not giving the same amount, and it's based on numbers of congregation. It's based on demographics. It's based on economy and economic situation. Our church has been tagged to donate $7,000 out of $60,000. And 7 churches, that's not a big deal. It was going to be $70,000, but as you know, the Liberal government has waived the necessity to repay the travel costs, which is for a family of 7, very onerous. That's $10,000. They've also waived the medical exams that are happening over there. So now we are only concerned with raising $60,000, and our church is tagged for 7. I have some very good news. As of yesterday, it's been confirmed we are halfway there. Yeah, we have $30,000 already. Oh, it's incredible. It's amazing. So, just to make sure that I've covered everything, I do want to invite you to not feel obligated or stressed by, well, what can I do? But rather to feel open about the possibility that there probably is something that you do very well. And so it doesn't need to be monetary. Any skills that you have, you can come to me and I will direct you to the person that can help you fulfill that. If you have concerns in your mind about social issues or political issues, he's your man. Although he's going to be gone for 20 weeks, so he's your man. And your woman. Okay, so we do not know when they're arriving. We don't think they're arriving next week. The focus is right now on Lebanon and Turkey, I think. And they are right now in a refugee camp on the border of Turkey and Lebanon, but they're in Iraq. And 7 people in a tent. So I'm going to tell you a little bit, but I'd like you to just pass this picture around because I think actually connecting with the family is very important. Now, this family has been chosen from a list that Mosaic drew from the UNHCR, which is the National Council, United Nations, something like that. And this family was tagged because they are so big, and many individual sponsors would not be able to support them. And that's why 7 churches supporting 7 people is very feasible. This family has wonderfully a brother living in Burnaby for 9 years. So it's actually a reunification. And he and his wife, his brother and his wife, who was in the paper the other day, her name's Haven, and she works for the Vancouver School Board. And she's going to be doing much work with English language. They have given birth to 2 girls, twins, here in Burnaby, so they're Canadians. So when their family gets here, the one that we are sponsoring, they will be, as you know, shell-shocked, and many people will be helping them through that trauma of what they've experienced. There's a story here. I will read part of it because it's in her words, translated by her brother, her brother-in-law, who's living in Burnaby. Now, I will just say, Kawa, who's the father, and his family of 6, they lived very happily in Al-Kamladesh. Let me make sure I've got it right. Al-Kamishli, in a beautiful city in Syria for a long time, raising their 5 children. And he worked as a supermarket manager and a car salesman, and she was a hairdresser, and they were happily living there with family and attending weddings in the summer, and he played soccer with his friends, and the oldest daughter, who's 13, was learning English. The family speaks Kurdish and Arabic. They have, as I said, 5 children. The youngest is 6. And all of a sudden, ISIS moved in, and they became very afraid. And if I can't read this story, I'm going to ask you to finish. I need a mother to read it. Okay? Anyway, they lived in this home, in a beautiful apartment at the foot of the Taurus Mountains, and near the Tigris River. So when one night they heard bullets whizzing and a bomb explode, and putting their children to bed, wondering if they were even going to wake up in the morning to see their children, they knew it was time to move. So I'm going to start this story, but I'm very close to it, so it's hard for me to read. She says, I am Naja, wife of Kawa. Our hometown is Al-Kamishli in Syria. We had a nice 3-bedroom apartment where we lived with our 4 beautiful boys and our 4 beautiful daughters and my little boy. I should put my glasses on. That'll help. We had a lovely mixed group of friends and neighbors. We worked hard each day and had fun and dancing in the evenings, but that was before the war. It is a complex situation, difficult for all the citizens of the country. Few young men were left in the neighborhood. The different fighting groups were taking away the young men between 14 and 37. Kawa is 35. We worried every day that he would be taken away. Frequently, he was approached and told he had to join the fighters. One time they punched him in the face. He pleaded with them that he has all of us, his large family, to care for. So he had to give them all the money he had to make them leave him behind. ISIS was operating very close by. Fear was everywhere. We would lie awake at night worrying for the safety of our children. There wasn't a single night we could sleep without hearing whizzing bullets, and we didn't know if we would wake up the next day. We could not live like this anymore. We made the decision to escape. Kawa's sister lives near the border in Iraq. We thought she might help us. So we packed up what we could carry, took the children, and set off with the little money we had left. It is around 300 kilometers to the border, but we could not go by road. We must travel through difficult terrain. It is not an easy route with 5 frightened children. Sometimes we found a smuggler to pay and take us in unlit cars, driving on unpaved roads for some distance. Mostly we walked. Eventually we reached the border. Several times we tried to cross into Iraq, but the many checkpoints were trying to prevent our escape. Finally, we managed to get through by walking along a trench at night in the darkness. After descending a dangerous mountain path, which was difficult for the children, we found a smuggler to take us in small boats across the Tigris River, which was terrifying for the children, but we made it safely. At least we had escaped the war. We managed to meet with Kawa's sister and her husband, but they couldn't help us. They told us we had to apply for refugee status, and they brought us to the United Nations camp in Erbil. We have been living in this camp since March, 9 months. Life here is very rough. It is very dirty. There is nothing to do all day long, especially for the children. Food, drinking water, and water for washing are all rationed. There is no war in the camp, but still it is dangerous for me or my girls to walk around if Kawa is not with us. Kawa has been talking to his brother Adnan in Canada. He tells us that there is a group of people who are prepared to sponsor our large family, that there is a chance for us to come and live in Canada. We are grateful that so many people would care. We are greatly encouraged that we could come to Canada to be near Adnan and his family. At least there is something to make my children smile again. There is hope.
Valley shall be lifted up, every mountain shall be brought low, and the rough places smooth, and the crooked straight. And there will be smiles, and there's something to hope for. Please pray with me. Holy One, thank you is our only prayer. Thank you that in the darkest time of year, you drop a light that resembles a word of hope, an invitation into the peace that surpasses all understanding, a call to justice, for without one, there is not the other. We give you thanks that we can gather around a particular call, around a particular way of participating in this great work of love that levels, that straightens, that makes smooth the path for others. We give you thanks that into the darkest season of the year, this light is our light. May our lives reflect that gratitude. May they be prayers of gratitude offered in the name of the one who came, who comes, and who is present now.